and it I'll call it it's alignment, right? I am, for the first time in my life, I guess I'm ready to deal with it, to receive the gifts from it, but also strong enough to hold the consequences of it.
Yes, and many children see them too. About 75% of the world's children today are being born with etheric vision. And when your children talk with people and have daydream playmates, the chances are they are actually speaking to some of these people, because these angels or angelic forces, or nature spirits as they're often called, will often make themselves seen.
And all of a sudden I hear him go, whoa, or, something like that. So I look up, and as I look up, I see this thing.
And I said, I've never seen a butterfly like you before.
I know that the paranormal is real. Listen.
As soon as I spoke to it, it turns around and makes eye contact with me. And then it stands upright.
And it was at that moment that I saw it was like an orange light appear above this row of trees. And from this sort of orange light, this thing appeared. Its wings were actually like sycamore leaf shaped.
And I started talking to them. I'm like, hi, are y'all the dwarves? And I would hear whispers that would say, hi, yeah, you want to play? And it wasn't just my imagination. And I had told them, I'm like, my dwarves, they like beer, And my dad's like, yeah, sure, your dwarves like beer. And they were holding a conversation, and his beer slid upwards instead of downwards, how the house was tilted. And him and my brothers jumped up.
So I stopped calling out Adam, and I'm just kind of, my mind draws a blank, and I stop behind that tree stump. I'm pretty close to it now because I took a few steps forward, and I see this thing.
Welcome everybody tonight to Fascinating Fae. Tonight we're traveling to Denmark to talk with Ing. Ing, how are things going in Denmark tonight?
Tonight I feel kind of blessed. I have just been together with my daughter in the street where I found my apartment. So and it's here in Denmark. It's 15 minutes past 8, I believe, right now.
Nice. That's a nice time to be talking with me. I like to do the conversations at night. I think it adds a special something to them. Ing, if it's cool with you, I'm going to just introduce you to the Fascinating Fae format.
Sure.
So basically here on the show.
And thank you for inviting me.
My apologies. It's my least favorite thing to do, to interrupt a guest, but there's a tiny bit of lag, probably just because I'm in Costa Rica and you're in Denmark.
Yeah.
I'll keep that in mind as I hang out and wait for your replies. All that said, here's what I was going to do. So basically, here on the show, the premise is that I'm here to collect amazing stories from people that have had incredible and amazing experiences. I do tell every one of my guests that I think it's very brave to come on the show. So Ing, I think it's brave for you to be here. And I do appreciate you having the courage to share your personal experiences in a public way. People truly do listen and gain a lot from it. And I will say this for sure, a minimum of one person listening is going to feel a lot of affirmation and clarity about their own thing that happened after they hear from you. So you're doing like a public service at the same time. And then finally, just the format of the show really is that I like to let my guests really get into as much detail as they feel comfortable with to help everyone listening, myself included, understand why this was important, what about it felt special, what stood out to you. And, so as much context or background as you feel is necessary to support the storytelling, you're totally welcome to take a long time. Many people that I talk to, it's like an hour or more, so no rush. And that's pretty much the format of the show. The only other thing I'll say is that when you're finished telling me the bulk of your story, I'll probably have questions because I'm fascinated or curious, which is the whole point of the show. And I may ask you some questions, but they're only questions just driven by my curiosity. There's no gotcha moments on Fascinating Fae. It's a supportive place for people that have had these experiences because in my case, and in many guests' case, it can be sort of isolating to feel like you're having, these types of experiences happen on some level. It's pretty exhilarating to experience it as well. So it's a mixed set of emotions that are atypical, and I'm very sensitive to that and aware of that. And I feel like it's good to have a place to just say what happened as clearly and as excitedly or objectively as you may feel. So that's what we're trying to get done here tonight. Now, anyway, that's enough out of me. What I'll do here is I'll just now sort of give you the prompt to start with your storytelling. So what I like to ask my guests to do is to just basically go into as much detail as you feel is necessary. And if you'd be so kind, Ing, just walk us into this story of the owl and your apartment, please.
Yes, sure. Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, I might need to introduce myself a little bit. My name is Inge Anine, and I'm from Denmark, like you told. And I'm 53. I have 3 grown-up children. I got divorced some 7 years ago, about 7 years ago. And I'm actually quite a critical and skeptical person, very optimistic, or maybe realistic, but I'm quite critical of what I see and hear in the medias and television, and I always try to see if I hear a story to brighten it, so I can understand and instead of judging it. So, and my background is I have a lot of education. I won't tire you with that, but just I'm a philosopher. And I'm also a coach, and I actually in my early days I'm educated as a nurse. But what the red thing or the line in my story is I have always been focused or very interested in philosophy, asking questions, and I felt just like since I have been a child, a young girl, I felt energies quite wild. And I was not scared as a child because I was just, I don't know, your kind of experience of the world is normal to you. So I didn't question it. Later on in my teenage years and also adulthood, I was a little bit embarrassed of feeling this energy from people, the universe, whatever. I felt it so deeply, and I often got some some signs from, I could have, I sometimes knew ahead if I had to go to a certain conversation or not a party, but like socializing, I could predict something because I got some signs. And I was kind of embarrassed, and I had never shared this experience as a young woman, and actually in my adulthood, I have been together with a nice man, the father of my children, but he was not into this. I won't say it's paranormal, but just very deep intuition and sixth sense. Maybe I thought it was, and I often was told, "You're too sensitive." So I thought, well, maybe I am. And then there has been mental issues with some of my family members. So I was, I was afraid of being judged for this kind of experience, and I thought, well, it might just be my fantasy getting me somewhere. And I know from experiences, also from my time being at university when I studied philosophy, that our brain needs to find patterns, right? If you let's say, that's an example. If you are pregnant as a woman, all of a sudden you see only women that are pregnant, right? Or you buy some stuff or a car, a certain name of a car, and you see that car all the time. So I know also the brain wants to find patterns. But some experience from me, and the last experience I had, where you saw me on Reddit with this one, was about a decision I had to make, and it's after some years of uncertainty. I was, I had to confront or decide to take the more spiritual path or leave it behind. And I have been back and forth because, I guess I didn't owe deeply this spiritual thing in the outside world, because I have been in environments as a leader and people who are hardcore scientists, and I was just in a way afraid of being judged for my sense for energies and signs. So I have a lot of I have had a lot of experience with signs when I have to make a decision, and some of them I told my closest friends, but even a close friend I never told her about it, because it's just I have been a little bit, still maybe afraid of being judged. But now to the story. The last 2 years, I have it has been a very difficult time. My oldest son got sick. My father died, and my ex-boyfriend and I broke up. And I just felt I have to start from scratch. I have to start all over, and it has been a wild ride with illness and a son who almost died, and I had to rethink myself, and then I started maybe 2 years ago a lot of meditation and yoga practice, and I even went to live in an ashram in India for 1 month, and was actually because of my oldest, lovely, compassionate son who was sick, and he's doing all this. He changed his life radically. And it has been quite inspiring for me. And I feel I'm 53 now, and I have to owe what I experience in life and use it for some good, and also to tell you who are listening that there's so much we fear that we cannot, if we cannot see it, or if we cannot take a physical form of what we experience, sometimes we get scared, or we won't accept there's another reality than the physical one. And if you can't go beyond the physical reality, life is pretty one-dimensional, if that makes sense. But this story of mine was about a decision. I used to live in Copenhagen this last 5-6 years. And because of, I have my old mother in Jutland, and my 3 grown-up children are living here. And I was kind of sad of leaving Copenhagen, and I have been back and forth, where to live, what to do, just a little bit confused about my path from here. And then I started to look for apartments in different cities. And 2 days ago, I was on Facebook, and all of a sudden, this message popped up with an oval, a silver oval, and it says, "Look for this silver oval. It's a sign, and there's a wish that will come through for you." And I did take a screenshot of that, because I was, that's why this, and I don't even know what site it was on, or who did send this message. Was it like, a community or whatever? I didn't think so much about it, and I was looking for more apartments, and then I came into this apartment, and I felt a very good energy. Like I said earlier on, I really feel energies around people and rooms and areas. It's quite overwhelming sometimes. But I got into this apartment, and I just looked out the windows. It was very nice, beauty with nature. You could see far in the horizon, and the sun was really came into the was shining through the windows, and I felt a very good energy. And there was a little balcony, and I went out on the balcony. I was just breathing and felt the calm of being there. And all of a sudden, I was just my eye just caught a balcony just a little bit a level behind my apartment, or this apartment, and there was sitting this figure of a silver oval. And I forgot all about the oval, and then I was, what, there's a silver oval? That was the message I got 2 days ago, and I totally forgot about it. And in Denmark, it's not normal that you have a figure of a silver oval outside your balcony, and I haven't seen an oval for years. So I was, this is this a sign? The feeling of this place, this apartment, and this oval, and then I was thinking, okay, I had to look for the number. Number 4 is the building is in number 4, and the 4 is a strong spiritual number for transformation, but also for clarity and grounding. the fourth corner of the world, north, south, east, and west, and also a table have four. It's stable, so it resonated with me. And what's also I also found out is that my mother's granddad, he lived in that street. I didn't know that, the name of the street. And recently, my daughter, of course I knew my daughter lived there, but I didn't want to find an apartment in the same street, but she lives in that street too. And I thought also the man that resonated with me a lot. The man, the street is called from is named from he was a wealthy man, but never got married, and he donated his money for young women to get a better life. And I just felt this connection to this place. And of course I remember where I was born, but all of a sudden it just makes so much sense, because I told my daughter, I'm actually born in this city. I don't even thought she knew it, but I'm actually born in this city. And I would have sworn just a year ago I would never ever move to that city. I don't have any relation with it. I don't felt a strong sense or need for knowing this place. I always saw it as it's a little bit out in the country, but now I feel it just, a part of me, if I rationalize and use my brain, it's just things in life is like that. It's nothing in that. It's just it's just ordinary experiences. But I have this other side of me that is strongly just wanting more space and place, and say, no, this is really, this is my apartment. It's so meaningful. It's all like almost like a chapter, more chapters getting together to a book. I don't know if that makes sense. And it felt it. I was so relieved from this experience, and I feel really at peace with it. And you who are listening, it has not been an easy process to come to this place, because I had a heartbreak, my father died, and all kind of things I had to face. But I think this experience, combined with a lot of other experiences, is just so, it resonates on such a deep level. It's like, it's actually, maybe you who are listening have some experience where you feel it's another form of language, or it's another kind of experience. It's another way of experience life, right? You can have some spiritual, you can have some spiritual experience. I had that too in India when I was sitting meditating in a temple. But it was kind of a different experience from this, where you get some signs, and I think with some of my experience with those kind of signs, I got a little bit scared of it sometimes. Not anymore, because, it's just, there's so much going on in the world right now, a paradigm shift, and I hear a lot of people having courage to tell about some experience without being afraid of being judged for you have a mental issue or you're just weird or whatever. And that's kind of relief, because it's actually also, it has been sometimes a struggle of feeling very different. And I know a lot of people feel different, but when you're younger and unexperienced with life, it can be kind of lonely. I always felt I got bored of just regular or ordinary entertainment, and so it has often been kind of lonely, and I sometimes just pretended it was fun to go to partying and getting drunk, whatever. It has been also, but sometimes I was just sick and tired of that way of experience life. It was like being in a, what do we call it, like a three-dimensional world. And what I feel now is a strong feeling of the world is shifting into a five-dimensional world, where we can go, and more people experience going beyond the physic, beyond the your titles, where you live, and the physic world, right?
Yeah, my apologies. I wasn't sure if you were just asking a question there. That's why I jumped in. But what I'll say is, if it's okay with you, I do have so many comments and questions based on what you've told me so far. And if we have time, we can talk more about what happened in India and anything else that you're interested in talking about. So many of the things that you just said there really are absolutely resonant with me and my understanding, and having also been kind of made to look at the world differently through this whole process and my own experiences. And so there's so many things that I could say and I want to try to say. First one is, thanks for sharing that. What a cool story. I really do. First of all, at 53, you're still a young woman, and starting over is no big deal. In fact, starting over is one of the better things that can happen in your life.
Yeah, exactly.
But it doesn't minimize the fact that ending up where you do have to start over usually follows something that really sucked. So I do appreciate you being honest about all of that context, because I think, understanding why this is a meaningful experience to you does take context. And one of the things I love to let my guests do is to just paint a picture of themselves and where they're coming from. So starting there, one of the things that you don't know about the show, because you're not a listener, you're just somebody who's volunteered to come forward here today, I touch on this isolation aspect pretty heavily, because I do think that having experiences where you see, feel, or otherwise experience, like you're saying, signs, which I would kind of say fall into the category of it feels like the universe is talking to you type of thing. If you have any of these things happen and you go to talk about them, you are going to experience all of the things that you talked about, like the fear of not being taken seriously in a professional setting afterwards. Maybe otherwise healthy relationship now having this weird dichotomy where you can't really share a part of yourself that's real to you with a partner. All this stuff is really a big part of the collateral damage of the gift of having a paranormal, quote unquote, experience. And it can be extremely isolating and lead to really negative outcomes, because you can feel special and not in a healthy way, in a way that you feel isolated. But many people, yourself included, I would throw myself into this category, and others don't want to throw away that experience of perception either. So many people stick with it, keep it personal, and know that it has real value, but maybe lack a community or a format to express it in a constructive way. That's a big part of the reason I did start the show. In my case, my best friend, he was very aware of these phenomena, but he was really unable to reconcile his perception of it with his normal responsibilities of life. And it was really, honestly, in such a beautiful way, trying to educate about it to others. But ultimately, he took his own life. A big part of it was him feeling like perhaps he has lost his mind, perhaps because absent a forum to really have a constructive, meaningful conversation in empathy around this stuff, you can be isolated and wonder about yourself and if what you're experiencing is real. And I will also say, and I've said this before, so for everyone listening, sorry to be such a broken record, but I like to talk to my guests like it's the first time Ing and I have ever talked. That's why I'm going over this stuff again, just because I want you to better understand how much I appreciate what you just said. In my case, I thought at first my friend had just lost his mind, and then I saw and experienced my own phenomena, and I've since experienced so much other complementary phenomena that now I look at it differently, which is that he probably did see and experience real phenomena, and he lacked the toolkit and the supports to make that make sense. So you're very right to say it's kind of a burden, but at the same time it's a gift.
Yeah, sure.
That's the first thing I wanted to say. And you're from Denmark. I don't know you. I'm a Canadian guy. But what's true is that no matter where you are in the world, if you have intuition, if you have vision, auditory connection, whatever you want to call it, if you experience this stuff, it comes at a bit of a price. Yes,
it does.
I always say that the fairies give great gifts. They're just wrapped in barbed wire, like you.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's like a fairy gift is a little prickly anyway.
Yeah, it is for sure.
That said, let's just kind of go into your owl story a bit more because it's really interesting. I saw the screenshot that you referenced, and it does look like a weird, just like Facebook message sort of. It's odd.
No. Yeah, it's odd.
It's not really a traditional looking Facebook notification or Facebook pop-up.
No.
So I want to just dig into that for a second because, just speaking personally, my phone has done really unbelievable stuff at times, to truly performing beyond function. And many people that I've talked to have had interfaces with electronics that do appear to be messages from this. In your case, in a second, I'll ask you, what do you think is behind this? But just for a placeholder, for sake of discussion, we'll just call it some sort of entity class or the universe itself having some sort of conversation, okay? Yeah. So a lot of people have actually experienced their phones, their computers, their tablets, their cars, even their fire alarms, their anything basically with a power supply and some sort of circuitry seems to be a tool with which a message or an input can come through. Now, what you said there earlier about when you buy one kind of car, you all of a sudden see that car everywhere. If you're a pregnant woman, you all of a sudden see pregnant. This is like a priming effect that happens in psychology, where any kind of novel or meaningful thing that produces basically like endorphins, you're seeking out more of it. So if you like your new car, you're going to see these cars everywhere. If you're happy that you're pregnant, you're going to see pregnant, happy people all over the place. Which is cool because it's like if we find a fruit we like, then our brains are naturally wired to see that fruit again in the forest somewhere else. Basically is where that phenomenon comes from. But having said that, I think like what you're describing with the owl, first thing that's interesting is that it just is a weird looking Facebook notification, in my opinion. It doesn't look like a traditional message. It doesn't look like a traditional scroll thing. It just seems like it popped up on your phone. And that's really interesting in and of itself. Enough so that it made you take note and you took a screenshot of it. By the way, thank you for doing that, because a lot of people have these things and they just pass by without documenting them. So it's really cool that you were motivated and felt it was interesting enough to take a screenshot of it. I probably would have done the same thing too. I've tried at times to take screenshots of the stuff my computer is doing, and there's been some pretty interesting stuff. Like when I talked to one woman in particular, just as one example, like all of my audio inputs that, you know, usually if you're like on a computer, you'll see like microphone 1, AirPod number 1, like you see all the different things you could connect to with Bluetooth or USB. As I'm talking to her, like all of the inputs just start to multiply. So now all of a sudden there's 5 microphone 1s, 5 AirPods, and you know, just really bizarre stuff, which only seems to happen when I'm doing Fascinating Fae episodes. But I just say that to say, like, I think there is something interesting going on there, and I don't necessarily dismiss that you saw this thing and felt it was like interesting enough to then sort of save. But then it's what comes next that is the real mind bender, you know, because as you are describing, like there's a whole kind of trajectory that's landed you to look at this particular apartment. And that's why I think context is so important, because like what is happening in your life is actually part of this phenomena somehow, a lot of the time.
Yeah, it is.
And that's, you know, again, I'm going to ask you some questions in a second. Like, do you think the universe is listening? Do you think it's a loved one? It's something, but we'll get there. But just to kind of affirm why I think it's so interesting to talk to you is like, yeah, okay, a silver owl figurine is like not a very common lawn ornament, deck ornament, really, like really not.
No.
And the correlation there, like where you're told you're going to see this silver owl, it's a sign. And then you're doing something as profound as trying to find this next home. And like finding a home is a profound human moment. And like a home can last a long time and make a huge difference in who and how you are. So, you know, finding the right one is a challenge anywhere in 2025. And so no matter who you are or where you are in the world, finding a decent home that you're happy with is this huge challenge.
It is.
And I really mean that sincerely. And so when you're kind of telling me, hey, I see this owl at the same time that you're feeling already like a connection and a peace and a happiness with the place, is a huge affirmation. And then it directly, of course, is going to tie back to you being told, look for the silver owl, it's a sign. You know, and I do think that even going further, the fact that like everyone is living on this street is like an alignment thing, both figuratively and literally, because you're all on the street, like you're in alignment now with whatever's coming next. And so whether it's a byproduct of your intention about your changing life and you're starting over, I don't know, because I'm not like an expert and I'm not even really that intuitive, but I just look at like what people are telling me and I think about what others have said, and I think like, you know, there's some byproduct of your intention there. There's some interface with reality, and there's some messed up stuff going on with time, precognition, larger understanding outside of our scope of like point A to point B, because in our reality and perception of reality, we're sort of making a decision, and then after the decision there's consequences, and that's time. And that's why time exists, so that we can make decisions and see the consequences. It seems totally logical that that's why time is there, so that the human soul can grow. You have to have a before the decision and an after the decision, and then you have to have, you know, that over and over again to grow and change. But
Sure.
when you think about what you're telling me with the owl, I'm just going to feed back to you logically what trips me out. So how does the universe, for lack of a better word, I'm going to ask you what you think it is in a second, or let me just ask you now, what do you think it is? What do you think is behind the communication? That's my question.
Yeah, I thought about it, and I think I experience it as the universe, the greater intelligence, God, whatever we call it. I think it comes from the same source, and I'll call it. It's alignment, right? I am, for the first time in my life, I guess, I'm ready to deal with it, to receive the gifts from it, but also strong enough to hold the consequences of it. So I feel it's a message from the universe, and yeah, I believe in God, actually, and it feels so strong. And actually, I forgot to say that before I went to this apartment, I did make a prayer. And I do some affirmation, and I said, "Give me a sign," because I really don't know if I should move to this city. I didn't never wish for this, to live in this city, but give me a sign. And then 2 days after this, owl came on Facebook or what, and then in this apartment. So I feel it. The psychologist Jung call it like synchronicity, but I feel it's more. It is more than just synchronicity, because in a way there was a moment where I felt, is that my grandma? I was very close to my grandma spiritually. She meant a lot to me. So I thought maybe she's it was like, this feeling, is she calling me home? It's safe here. You can be safe here. It's you'll get this time to have more comfort, is not the right word, but there will be peace here, more peace here. There has been so much going on in my life, and so I think it's a greater calling, and I'm ready. So I'm listening now, and that's where it everything goes up in a higher dimension, I believe.
That's a great answer, and really interesting on so many levels. To finish my thought, and why I was asking you what you thought it was. So allowing for what you think it is, which is like a higher communication from the universe, God, possibly your grandma. Before I go any further, I'll say this. I don't know why sometimes, but when I listen to certain parts of people's stories, occasionally my whole body will get full goosebumps. And when you were talking about your grandma there, my body did, and I just don't know why. But it also started up when you were talking about doing heavy prayer, looking for a sign. So I'm going to say, just based on only my goosebumps alone, which that's not scientific, but you probably are quite correct that you kicked off this one side of the conversation with your intention and prayer. Yeah. And whomever it is that's able to participate in the both listening and then maybe the dispatching of these communications is up for debate, and it could be a combination of a creator and a grandmother in tandem. No reason why not. Sort of relaying the message, or both are hearing it and both feel, because I do wonder sometimes if it's not just limited to one behind the veil player, but if there's actually like real collaboration at times.
I actually had another experience in this city where this apartment is. I went into it was a very nice and soulful shop, and there was also a barber shop in nearby the apartment. And I was looking. There was all kind of old things. One of these very special shops, no mainstream. Just there was art, and there was this feeling of a soul. And I was with my daughter in that shop, and there's a tall old man coming towards my daughter and me, and he looked at me and he looked right at me and he said, "You need to paint again. You really do, and you have to take some more money than you did last time." And my daughter looked at him and said, "Do you know my mother?" No, he said not. He said, and and he told a lot of other stuff, but this, you need to paint again. What is the that's a crazy experiment, because I actually did paint in 1998 when I got my first son. A whole new world, the new love to a newborn, and I felt so creative, and I started painting, and everybody around me say, "Oh, you need to make some exhibition," and I said, "No, no, no," but I did, and I sold everything, and it was it was cheap, and I was kind of embarrassed because I thought, well, I'm just an amateur for this. And then year went by, and I got to study at university, leadership, 3 children, everything. It's another dimension or another level in life. And he could have told me, "You should start painting," but he said, "You need to start painting again."
Again.
Yeah, and I was just, whoa. And he said, "You just need to make a little strange thing on your pictures, so people, they will see this beautiful, you paint very beautiful, and just a little crazy different things that makes their brain, what is this?" And yeah, it was just, and it was in this city too, and yeah, that was something.
Okay, I'm going to have more questions about the tall old man in a second. And
Yeah.
I'm going to just put a quick pin in that one, and I'll get right back there, because I just want to go back to this owl one more time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything that you've just said is equally fascinating, and I love these like strangers that walk up and know something about you stories. I've heard a number of them, and I also got pretty big goosebumps when you were telling me that story too. I take it, because I'm a critical listener, I'm like, well, if I'm getting goosebumps, either it's just a really cool part of the story, or my intuition is signaling like, hey, this is the real fairy stuff, or this is the real paranormal stuff. I hate the word paranormal, but I use it because it's...
Me too. Yeah, we know what...
Paranormal comes with its own baggage, and we all have problems enough being sensitive to this stuff to not put a crappy label on it. But, okay, so back to this like owl thing, because... I'm so invested in your storytelling, and I want to just go over this part because it's the part that is my favorite. How does the universe, your grandma, this is what we're calling it, one or the other, or both, how do they know that you're going to go see this apartment? How do they know that there's a silver owl on a balcony adjacent? And like, so there's a weird thing with time, because they know already that you're going to go there and you're going to see that. They know in advance. That's the only logical way that sending you a message that says, look for the silver owl, it's a sign, makes sense.
Yeah.
And so earlier when I was saying like time kind of exists as a human perception tool because our souls are going from decision to after decision. And in order for that to occur, you need time to elapse. But when you think about the way that these entity classes, or, you know, and I do like really think that there's perhaps some format that deceased loved ones are using this kind of interface. I do think that there's like maybe the universe as a whole or larger consciousnesses also doing the same kind of tricks. And I think that it's not just limited to fucking with your electronics. I think they can totally use people like you're describing with this tall old man. And I've heard
I think so.
many stories. But I guess just to ask you a question, right? Like, is what I'm saying there about, doesn't it kind of trip you out, the time part? Like, does it not seem that there's a precognition there to that message? And what does that make you think about time? What do you make of that aspect of your experience? I'm really curious what you think.
Yeah. Well, I think if I understand you right, I can maybe I can explain it from this 3D and 5D dimension. In 3D dimension, we prevented time, right? We have a clock, and the time is like we experience it as a physic thing, right? And it's very limited. If you know, reality is what you experience, right? So a lot of people right now are awakening, and they experience things beyond this worldly time. And when you can, I don't know what you call it, when you go into it doesn't have to be meditation, but if you're able to experience 5D, you know, for an example, when we live in this timeline where it's 3D, we judge, right? We need to put things into boxes that fits in here. That's why we can explain it, and that's what we see, and that's what we believe. And when you experience this story of mine, you need to have the ability to step out of 3D and to experience 5D, where there's a whole nother level of experience life. Time is just something we invented, clocks as a watch. That's not how nature time is. That's it's what is that called? I forgot my English. Time is it's not a limiting thing. It's you need to be able to experience experience beyond time, what you think is time, and reality and consciousness is what you experience. So if you're limited in your experience of something, then you are limited or grounded to this way of world time, but that's constructed because so time is I'm not sure I'm actually answering your question.
Oh no,
you said about
you're definitely answering my question, and you've answered it in a really great way. I'm right there with you, Ing. I think time is but an illusion.
It is.
And the more I get into the trajectories of these phenomena, I mean, I could just sit here and do like a list 100 items long of where I think these interactions that people are sharing with me bend the perception of time. I mean, there's so many examples. Like the one I talked about most recently with this big skeptic was this double plate thing I kind of talked to you about earlier, where the woman lost a plate, she tore her house apart, couldn't find it, finally buys another plate. The plate comes from Amazon. She opens the door. She goes back into her kitchen, and the plate is now returned onto the stovetop where she was cooking.
Wow.
Now, I mean, so that even there, whatever entity she's dealing with also knows, ha ha ha, I know what's at the door, I know when it's going to come, and I'm dropping the plate off in this meaningful moment. I talked recently to my personal friend Blake, who he has a pretty difficult experience where he lost his partner who drowned in a boating accident in the Atlantic Ocean.
That's awful.
It's awful, for sure. It's awful.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful for my friend for coming on the show and telling the story, because it's a deeply personal story. But similar to what you're describing is maybe like having something to do with your grandma. Let's just use that as an open conjecture here. Him and the family of Laura, the woman who's passed away, are all together basically just waiting on bated breath for search and rescue to do their job, because it's not clear that she's totally deceased. She's just fell off the boat and can't be found, and so they're holding out hope. And one of the sisters has a dream, and in the dream Laura comes to her and basically conveys a very strong message of like, don't worry. And the next morning the sister is telling Blake and the siblings and the parents, I had this dream last night. So everyone in the house is like, aware that this dream happened. And they're just waiting and waiting. And so they decide, okay, we're just going to like watch some TV because we're all losing our minds. So they turn on the TV, and maybe 10 minutes into watching the TV, there's a line of dialogue in the television program where one of the actors says, don't worry. And when that word comes out of the actor's mouth, the broadcast television show freezes, and
I get goosebumps.
And then the closed captioning turns on and says, don't worry, like in written words on the screen, and it's frozen there. I know, I have full body goosebumps right now too.
Me too.
And this isn't even my story. This is my friend's story.
No, it's so crazy.
I wonder sometimes, like, if I talk about a deceased person or a fairy, and then again I talk about them, they've hit subscribe on Spirit Spotify, and like, so they know that they're being talked about or something. But so the TV freezes on Don't Worry, and they are all looking at it, like kind of shocked, and then they sort of like, one of them goes up to like maybe touch the TV, and then it just like all of a sudden comes back to normal, and the program resumes and the closed captioning turns off. And again, this is broadcast television in the like more than 20 years ago almost. And then that all like, they all are kind of like, okay, and so they turn off the TV, and they move and they go into the kitchen, and they're all sitting around the table, and there's this like novelty fish, like a rubber fish that sings songs, and it sings the famous song "Don't Worry, Be Happy." If you press this red button on it, and they're all just sitting around the table, and this fish is up on the wall, kind of in the kitchen, and it just without anyone touching it, without anyone even close to it, turns on and starts singing "Don't Worry." And they all burst out into tears. But there's another example that I can share recently that's been on the show that has a lot of similarities to like the nature of time being like the other side sees time all at once, knows everyone is together, knows what's on TV, knows exactly what's about to be said, knows when to stop it, knows that the fish on the wall also sings "Don't Worry," like, so it's, and then in the correlation with the messaging in the dream received the night before is so exact. And essentially what my friend took away from that is that this is most likely Laura's departed spirit trying to convey this message to everyone who is sitting worried about her, and the message appearing to be not "Don't worry, I'm alive," but like, "Don't worry, like I'm okay," in effect. Which read into that however you want. Is that affirmation that in the afterlife things are good? Possibly. I like to think so. But is it affirmation of what many, many people say, not just on this show, but you hear it in kind of just hushed conversation in life, like that a lot of people have had something happen where a deceased loved one is communicating. And Blake's story is one very powerful one because it involves multiple people and all experiencing the same thing, and all also taking the same emotional meaning from it. Even though, there's 5-6 people in that experience, everyone felt it was the same thing, if that makes any sense.
Again, that time was, if you can tap into another energy, right? Science also today say everything is energy, right? I think everyone today agrees on that. So if you can tap into another form of energy with that, you go beyond time. Death is not the worst thing ever. It's part of the circle of life. So if you can approach it that way, and I remember actually an old lady, it was in my early day, I might have looked a little bit I don't know, afraid or insecure, and she was dying, and she decided she didn't want to live anymore. She had had a beautiful life, but she was tired, she was old, she had been through surgery, and she took my hand and she said, "Don't worry, I'm okay." And it was so, and I felt this, you're talking about consciousness and how we experience time. So if, and I don't know if even if scientists or spiritual people, they don't agree on what is, a greater consciousness or and going, beyond our timeline. But I think what they agree, all of them, is that reality is what we experience. So if so many people are waking at this time of history, it's not there must be more meaning to it. I don't know if it makes sense what I'm saying.
What you're saying makes a lot of sense, and one of my favorite parts about Fascinating Fae is myself and the guest struggling to find the right words, because that's the nature of this whole subject matter. So
it is.
You're fine. You're in good company with not exactly knowing how to say it, but feeling it clearly, which is kind of takes us right back to where we started with you introducing yourself. It's something that you kind of know and have a hard time speaking in a way that is universally understood and acceptable. And one of the side missions of the show, not that we're here to convince anybody of anything, is that it will hopefully, at some juncture, if I keep at it long enough, do some heavy lifting around the proving of this phenomena. Because my take on it is like what you say, that reality is what you experience. I'm firmly kind of in this mindset today, and it may change because my mindset is evolving all the time on this project, but I think that it is a real phenomena, and then the reality of the phenomena then draws into heavy question the nature of reality itself. So exactly. Then you start to get into like, well, to what degree is reality not so real? To what degree is it a representation? To what degree is predestiny, a part of it? Is there an ability for these entities to manipulate time? Like, for example, some of the questions that come to mind with your experience would be like, were you always going to be in this house? Was everything that ever happened in your life always going to happen? And then you eventually hit a moment where, like you said, are starting to feel strong enough to live in that skin, I guess, not to put words in your mouth, but just that's what I was taking away.
Oh, that's yeah.
Is that why then you had this sign and then ultimately this apartment gift from the universe? Or is it like you were never going to have that apartment and then you prayed and some entity class adjusted your fate to put you into this apartment?
Maybe, yeah.
These are the bigger questions that really mess with me. And if it is like a time travel movie, then the question that then comes next is like, well, when did the plot start? Was it before you were born? Was it, is this yourself already dead traveling back in time? Like, there's so many conjectures that one could get into, but I do think that like what is probably the case, and this is just my Cole's Notes version on it, is the soul, the human soul, is more or less an immortal thing and comes into this form as a human in this 3D reality, like you're saying. I think that's well said. In order to have lived experiences and experience decisions and consequences in order to grow and to become a better soul. But that once the physical container of the soul ceases to function or be available, the immortality of the human soul is, again, like in Blake's story, pretty hard to dismiss that's like, because it's either like God himself taking these forms in this dream and in this television stall, or it's Laura. It's one of the two. Either one suggests something profound. So even if you don't know which, it's still equally mind-blowing and meaningful. And
it is mind-blowing.
That's kind of where I'm at, is like you and me having this conversation, we hopefully and probably go on after we die. I really do feel that that's a distinct possibility. And I've had some experiences with my deceased friend who I mentioned to you earlier that are really along the same line. I'll let you discover some of these stories by listening to episodes. I won't bore the audience and ruin it for you by giving it all away here, but everything you've said tonight follows like a really beautiful narrative that's emerged in the production of this show. So please understand, like, everything you've said is of high value. All of your ideas are important because no one is an expert on this subject matter, in my opinion.
No one.
No one.
No one is. And one of the questions for, or what I sometimes I don't know either, and I know a lot of spiritual people, and they don't agree on everything, and so it is because their perception of what reality is a dynamic process, I guess, for all of us, and I think what's really important is if you want to. I think what's going on right now is it's a crazy time, but it's also a very, very, very interesting historic time. I told you I have been studying philosophy at university from ancient time to now, and how patterns keep going on, wars, and the way people often think the timeline is just one linear timeline, and it's not at all. And I think what really happens right now is we did resist both our essence, because in especially in a Western culture, we have certain concepts on how the world is. We put it into some boxes, and then it makes us safe, we think. But what I experience right now is a lot of people, they cannot resist anymore. There's no way back. You need to give not give birth, but you need to be able to find places where you can talk about this without being judged or being afraid of getting fired from a good job, or you are just mental issues, and that's the shift in consciousness. I really feel a lot and see a lot right now, but it's also for me like the world is dividing into two, because there's also a lot of people still on this planet that deny this kind. And I told you, I don't know if I told you in the beginning, but actually when I was writing my story on Reddit, there's some people in. I think they should be skeptical, because I also doubt a little bit sometimes, but they call it nonsense. And I think that's because it's difficult if everything is energy, and you're able to tap into 5D consciousness, if you are still operating in 3D, how on earth should you? It's a discussion that does not make sense, because I really see good people, they don't experience the world beyond 3D.
You know, I'll add to this, because what you're saying just brings it up for me. I've been really trying, I'm not joking, I've been working on this one for 10 months. What is the right analogy to put into concept what you're saying? Here's what I'll offer, and you can tell me if you like it or not. It's like trying to describe the color blue to somebody that's been blind since birth. How do you do it?
That's beautiful.
How do you do it? It's something that you can see that they have no history with and no perception of. And so you could say it's kind of it's cool. It's what words do you use to describe the color blue if you talking to somebody who's never seen any color for that matter, right? And that's a real world example, because I do wonder, what does somebody who's blind from birth experience in terms of colors? There's really, and I started to actually ask that specific question, and there's a really interesting thing that people do. So if somebody is blind from birth and they're trying to describe colors, they'll hold their hand over a really red hot element and say, "That's red. Do you feel that? That's red."
It's interesting, right?
Yeah, and they'll put their hand in on a cold frozen glass of water, and they'll say, "That's kind of blue. Do you feel that? That's sort of blue." And so it's just really interesting how when we're talking about what is able to be perceived, it's a matter of education on one hand, opening your mind up to it. But I do really think that at the core of every human is a kind of quantum vision, a ability, innate, a biological ability to interface with this other aspect of reality that is not the most common one, but is equally real. Now, what that means, what that says, I have no idea. We could talk for 9 hours about that stuff, but anybody on Reddit who says that your story is nonsense, here's what I would say to that, just to kind of finish and move along here, out of respect for your time. We'll start wrapping up in a minute. Is look, I'm a pretty smart guy. I don't think that I would talk to somebody for an hour and a half about a Facebook message and them getting their apartment unless it was really interesting. And I do really think it is really interesting. So, it's a loss for whoever just says nonsense. They're just there to cast shade anyway. Or, like we're talking about, they just can't get themselves to understanding what might be special about it because they themselves don't have those types of experiences. Now
that's good answer.
Well, thanks. Look, I'm trying to walk the line as the host of the show of just presenting the guest mostly, but at the same time, like I said at the beginning, I've never talked to you before, so I just want to talk with you. So we're just talking here.
Yeah.
If I got some stuff to say, it's just a back and forth conversation. And there's really no there's no goalpost on a Fascinating Faye episode. You know what I'm saying? It's just, it is what it is. So
Great.
With that said, if it's okay with you, I'm going to ask some of my wrap-up questions. I just want to get quickly, maybe 2 minutes more, into this tall man that came over to you.
Yeah.
I'll start by telling you a brief story from another one of my guests, Eliezer, this man from Israel. He was like researching a book of similar weird stuff. And he was coming at it from the perspective of like, these are essentially Judaic angelic archetypes, so angels, for lack of a better word. And he tells this really interesting story of this man who was a rabbi, just a rabbi student, in fact. And this man had always felt called to the cloth, so to speak, and went to seminary school to become a rabbi. And was in New York attending school to become a rabbi, to become an ordained rabbi. And one evening had a fever dream, for lack of a better word, just the most intense dream of his life, where he dreamed that he was the rabbi of an 18th century synagogue that had been raided and burned to the ground. And he had this visceral dream of this happening, and that this was him. This was his past life, so to speak. Now, I can't remember the name, so we'll just say it's the synagogue of Constantine. It's not the real word. That's not the real name, but just for what comes next. So this guy has this dream that he's the rabbi of Constantine, and he wakes up from this dream and he's like, that is so messed up, and he can't forget this dream because it was so real. He goes to leave to go to seminary school in the morning, and he gets on the subway, and he's just going his normal route on the subway, and he gets to one stop, not the stop where he's getting off. People get off the subway, people get on the subway, and he's sitting there. And then just before the doors to the subway close, this man dips his foot into the door and stops the doors from closing, leans into the carriage of the subway car, points right at him and says, "Hey, aren't you the rabbi from Constantine?"
Whoa. I get goosebumps again. Yeah.
And then pulls his hand back, pulls his foot out of the doors close, and the train moves on. And a few people are looking at him because this man just pointed at him and said that, and he is white as a ghost,
whoa.
And so Eliezer asks, what is that? What is that?
Yeah.
Now, now that's another story in the similar vein to what you're telling me. So I'm just curious, this guy, he was real tall, he was old. Did he look, what did he look like to the best of your recollection? That's one of my first questions about these people that do this stuff.
Yeah, I don't know what he looked like.
Yeah, what was his physical appearance? I mean, you said he was old and tall, but other than that...
Yeah, he was and tall, a good-looking old and tall man, and what he actually reminds me about was, first I thought that could be my granddad. He was very tall and bald. He had no hair, and a very handsome man, big man. And I also got a feeling. I was talking with my ex boyfriend's father. They look alike too. So, but he's not dead. So I was a little bit confused. Is it my granddad that's talking, or he reminded me a lot of him. I don't have any answer for. I think it could be my mother's father. They look alike. There was some vibe around him like that, or it could be I one time many years ago. I had a patient dying, and we had some very deep conversation, a very compassionate and nice old man. And yeah, it could be him, but I think I feel it's more around my granddad, or I don't know. Yeah, I don't know who it could be else, actually.
Interesting. And again, like, would we ever be able to know if it's like a reincarnated or a temporary, hijack of a loved one, or is it the universe itself? Hard to say,
It's hard to say.
He just walked right over to you, hey? Like, just straight over to you and your daughter and started talking with you in that way.
Yeah, he was the owner. He was the owner of this barber shop. So, and he have had this barber shop for like, I believe he said like 45 years. He did have this shop, and he told me a lot of other things about my children, and who he said your youngest son and you look alike, and you will talk in the same way, and my daughter was just nodding her head and there's all kind of things going on. So what it was, I don't have I can tell you there's actually there's this guy in Denmark. He have those programs, documentary, and also programs where he invites all kind of people, and he is really, really good at reading people, right? And he says this is not something spiritual or paranormal. This is just a deep intuition and sense for people. But it was more. My daughter and I was talking. It's more than this, because he could actually have said, well, like I told before, you gotta start painting. Well, that the chance is 50-50, but you need to start painting again. So I was actually wondering, that's why I thought, is it my granddad? Because my granddad, he was very great artist. He was living a hard life as a farmer. But when he got older, he painted a lot, and he was actually he was singing, he was creative. So maybe it was like, I felt this strong relation to him. It could be him calling me to take this painting, because I stopped it, right?
What an interesting detail that he's the owner of the shop. Originally, I thought it was maybe just a random fellow customer.
No, he was the owner of the
that makes it all the more interesting, because I mean, what's going on there if he's
what's going on? And why did I had the need to go in there, and it was a barber shop. I could see it was a barber shop. There was a man sitting in the chair, and then there was some stuff, old like art and old furnitures from 19th century, and it was like, why did I need to go into that shop? There's a lot of shop in this city, but this one.
And I'm assuming you and your daughter are not like heading into a man's barbershop for really any reason.
No, we had no what to do in there.
You're not going to get a perm cut in a color at a men's barbershop.
No,
so
not at all. Not at all.
Okay, well, thanks for helping me tease some more details out of that one. I often say with Fascinating Faye, I could talk to people forever, but out of respect for your time and out of respect for the audience's time, I try to keep the episodes to around 2 hours. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to ask you my final question that I ask everyone who comes on the show. And in your case, we haven't really been talking about fairies so much as we've been talking about the universe itself and our souls as they depart, what might be going on there. But the question that I do like to ask everybody, and if you've never really thought about it too much, don't stress out too much around this question. But what I like to ask everybody is, Ing, what do you think fairies are?
Oh, hmm. Yeah. What kind of word? I think I would say nature spirits, like their guardians. Guardians working behind the scenes. I don't. I think that's the closest. I can. Yeah, they have some kind of connection with nature. Yeah, in another dimension, and if you can tap into that dimension, you will have some guidance.
I'm right there with you. I like to think they're on our side, and I'm also hoping that there's a place beyond the veil that we just can't quite see, where all of our departed loved ones and all of these fairies are just hanging out and partying and having a great time, laughing at us as we make our way through our daily lives. But maybe the answer will eventually emerge itself to us in certainty when we make the transition ourselves. I do really appreciate your nursing work. And I know the important role that, nursing and palliative care plays in all of our lives. So I can understand why you still don't do it, but I really appreciate the time that you did. I say this similarly to like my first responders, the cops, the firemen I talk to, the nurses, the doctors. That stuff is hard, and it speaks to your character that you were able to, do that for so long. This is probably why you're an effective coach and leader in other areas of your life, is you have that deep insight that comes from being with people as they make that transition. Yeah, and again, thank you so much for, being brave enough to talk to a stranger about deeply personal stories. I really appreciate it. Just before we go, I'm going to do 2 minutes of podcaster housekeeping here, and at the end of which I'll give you the last word, which I give to all of my guests, if that's okay with you. And again, I hate to rush these conversations. You can, obviously chat with me anytime after this if you want to keep talking, but I just try to keep them around 2 hours for the audience. With that said, that's because you're listening to the Fascinating Fae podcast, and I am your host, Jim. If you'd like to support the show, you can find Fascinating Fae at all of the common socials, and now on YouTube as well, at Fascinating Fae. And other than that, usually when I do my housekeeping, Ing, I let everybody know that on behalf of all of the human and non-human listeners tuning into Fascinating Fae tonight, super big thanks to Ing for coming on the show all the way from Denmark. Thanks for being here tonight. I really appreciate it so much.
I'm here in Denmark, and you are at a totally different place, and we can connect on such important issues, not just issues, but experiences. I really think it gives hope for humankind. And my last word, I don't even know what to say, because I'm also a little bit blown away of the stories you are telling. But I think I hope with your program and these really important conversations, that people will follow their intuition, heart and soul more, not to be afraid of being judged. And maybe the courage to talk about it must be on like a podcast like this, before we get the strength to go to our relatives, family, near friends. Hey, listen, I got this experience. Because sharing a gift like this is so valued. It's so big, and it's we need to share this kind of experience, because in the end, when we do, we'll see that everything is connected, and we have a lot deeper bond to each other than we like, and that is the beautiful part.
Look at all the little people, once we all were one of them. But time has come and carried us far away from them. It's funny what we do remember, the mind works in witty ways. It never fails to amaze, again and again. When you wake up 50 years from now, you're not surprised when you wonder how you got so far along the road so fast. Life is weird and wonderful, the thick and thin, the push and pull through it all. We need to make it last. Look at all the other people, once we will be one of them. Time will take us by the hand and guide us to the end. Forget me not, the aged cry, through silent sounds and weary eyes. Hear my tale before I die, I just need a friend. When you wake up 50 years from now, you're not surprised when you wonder how you got so far along the road so fast. Life is weird and wonderful, the thick and thin, the push and pull through it all. We need to make it last. When you wake up 50 years from now, be not surprised when you wonder how you got so far along the road so fast. Life is weird and wonderful, the thick and thin, the push and pull through it all. We need to make it last.